For nearly 2 millennia, a shadow has hung over early Christian history, the mystery of the Gospel of the Hebrews. While no complete copy exists today, we know it was widely read. The most influential theologians of antiquity, including Origen and Jerome, quoted from it as a respected authority. This highlights how a historical false lead began. Early scholars were convinced Apostle Matthew composed his Gospel in Hebrew. Because of this belief, the early church assumed the Gospel of the Hebrews was simply that original Hebrew Matthew, categorizing it as a translation rather than an independent work. This mistaken identity effectively camouflaged the text's true origins. By treating it as a variation of Matthew, historians overlooked evidence of an entirely separate Christian tradition. That consensus eventually fractured when scholars, Jerome included, examined the surviving fragments and found they directly contradicted the Gospel of Matthew. One surviving passage records a tradition unheard of in the canonical Gospels. Jesus describes the Holy Spirit as his mother, who carries him by a single hair. The text identifies this flight's destination as Mount Tabor. This detail anchors the book's bizarre theology to a specific landmark in the Galilean landscape. A second fragment describes the Spirit resting upon Jesus at his baptism, using language that aligns with Jewish wisdom literature rather than Greek philosophy. These anomalies reveal a highly specific Jewish Christian perspective that operates outside the framework of the Greek Gospel of Matthew. With the theory of a Hebrew Matthew disproven, the document stands as an original, independent record. The question remains, who was positioned to write it? Internal clues point to a specific audience. Historical records place this gospel in the hands of isolated communities in the East. These groups, known as the Nazarenes and Ebionites, occupied a unique middle ground. They maintained the law of Moses while following the teachings of Jesus. In this gospel's narrative, James the Just occupies the position of highest authority. While other gospels focus on Peter, this text claims Jesus appeared first to James after the resurrection. James was the brother of Jesus and served as the foundational first bishop of the church in Jerusalem. The author's reverence for James and their access to early oral traditions suggests a leader within that original Jerusalem circle, someone intimately connected to the family of Jesus. One historical figure aligns with this profile, Simon Clopas, the cousin of Jesus. Following the martyrdom of James, Simon ascended to the leadership of the Jerusalem church as its second bishop. Simon's leadership coincided with a period of existential threat. Just before the Roman army destroyed the temple in 70 CE, Simon led the Jewish Christian community out of the city to the safety of Pella. In exile, Simon faced internal pressure from rival teachers like the Buddhists. As an eyewitness and ear witness to the apostolic age, he possessed the authority to settle these disputes with a written record. Under Simon's direction, the Gospel of the Hebrews likely served to codify these Jerusalem traditions. With their holy city in ruins and their community scattered, this text became a theological anchor, preserving their specific Jewish identity in writing. Simon's long tenure ended in the early 2nd century. At the age of 120, he was tortured and crucified on the orders of Emperor Trajan. His gospel continued to circulate for centuries among the descendants of the Pella refugees, even as their community grew more isolated. Eventually, the demographic weight of Christianity shifted. The faith expanded into the Greek and Latin-speaking world, leaving the Aramaic traditions of the Levant behind. When the Church finally codified the official New Testament canon at the end of the 4th century, these Hebrew and Aramaic texts were excluded and eventually labeled heretical. Today, the fragments of the Gospel of the Hebrews offer the authentic, fossilized voice of Jesus' first followers in Jerusalem, a glimpse into a parallel form of Christianity that the rest of history simply moved past.